The sound of breaking ground echoed through my childhood home as construction crews began tearing up the garden my mother had planted 30 years ago. Victoria, my stepmother of 5 years, stood at the window watching with undisguised glee. "The new pool will go there," she said, gesturing with her champagne glass. "And the tennis court where that awful rose garden is. Really, Emily, your father let this place become so quaint." My name is Emily Richardson, and I was watching the woman who had married my father in his final years systematically destroy everything my family had built. The historic Richardson estate, home to 3 generations of my family, was being demolished to make way for her vision of modern luxury. "Nothing to say?" Victoria prompted, turning to face me with that familiar condescending smile. "No tears about your precious memories." I kept my expression neutral as I studied her. The designer outfit that probably cost more than most people's monthly mortgage, the massive diamond ring my father had given her, replacing my mother's more modest one. The architectural plans spread across what used to be my father's antique desk. "The renovations look lovely," I said simply. "I'm sure it will be beautiful." She frowned slightly, thrown off by my calm demeanor. "That's it? No fighting? No threats about contesting the will? Would it change anything?" "No," she laughed, taking another sip of champagne. "The will is quite clear. Everything goes to my children. Your father wanted them to have the life they deserve. You understand, don't you?" What she meant was everything she had manipulated my father into signing over during his battle with cancer. The estate, the family business, even my mother's jewelry. All of it now belonged to Victoria's 3 children from her previous marriage. "Of course," I replied, picking up my bag. "I should let you get back to your plans." "Don't be like that," she called as I turned to leave. "You can still stay in the guest house. That's more than generous, considering." I paused at the door, thinking of all the Sunday dinners in this house, all the holidays, all the memories she was so eager to bulldoze. "Thank you, Victoria. You're too kind." As I walked out of my childhood home, I could hear her already on the phone with her interior designer, probably planning which walls to tear down next. What she didn't know was that I discovered her deception 3 months ago, right after she'd started manipulating my father's medication doses to keep him confused and compliant. The drive into Boston was quiet. Through the car windows, I could see the familiar landmarks of my hometown, places I'd grown up seeing through the back seat of my parents' car. Before cancer took my mother, before Victoria swooped in to take care of my grieving father. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus, my father's former business partner and one of the few people who knew what I'd been planning. "Is it done?" "Phase 1 complete," I replied. "She doesn't suspect a thing." Marcus was one of 3 people who knew what I'd been quietly preparing since I'd first discovered Victoria's manipulation of my father's will. Like me, he'd seen through her perfect facade. The devoted nurse turned loving wife, the caring mother who just wanted to unite our families. As I pulled into my law office's parking garage, I thought about how differently things might have turned out if Victoria had just been honest. If she actually cared about my father instead of seeing him as a means to an end. The elevator ride to my office was quiet. Through the glass walls, I could see Boston's skyline, the same view I'd looked at every day while building my legal career. The same career Victoria had dismissed as cute when she first met me, not realizing that my expertise in estate law would eventually be her undoing. Peter, my investigator, was waiting in my office with Dr. Chen, my father's real oncologist. "Everything's in place," Peter said as I walked in. "We're just waiting for your signal." I nodded, setting my bag down and looking at the evidence we gathered. Medical records showing suspicious changes in my father's treatment, security footage from the house, and most importantly, a copy of the reel my father had signed before Victoria began tampering with his medication. "How long until she notices?" Dr. Chen asked, his face tight with professional anger at how his patient had been manipulated. "She won't," I replied. "Not until the renovations are complete. That's what she cares about most, turning my family home into her personal showcase." I thought back to how this all started. Victoria had seemed so perfect at first, the private nurse who took care of my father while I was busy with my law practice in Boston. She was attentive, charming, and seemed to genuinely care about his well-being. But there were signs I'd missed. Distracted by my own grief and guilt over not being there more often. The way she slowly isolated him from his friends, the gradual changes in his medication regimen, the subtle manipulation that turned him against me. Show me the timeline, I said to Peter. He pulled up a detailed document on my computer. Phase 1 is complete. She believes you've accepted everything. Phase 2 starts next week when the contractors begin the major renovations. And the evidence? I asked Dr. Chen. He handed me a thick folder. It's all here. Documentation of medication changes, altered prescriptions, even video footage from the home security system showing her tampering with his pills. I opened the folder, studying the evidence we gathered. Victoria thought she had orchestrated the perfect plan. Marry a wealthy widower, manipulate him into changing his will, then wait for cancer to take its course. What she hadn't counted on was my father's foresight or my determination to protect his true legacy. My phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. The demolition crew needs to start on the east wing tomorrow. Be sure to remove any personal items you want to keep. Wouldn't want your precious memories ending up in a dumpster. I showed the message to my team. She really thinks she's won. Are you sure about the timing? Peter asked. We could move now, stop the renovations before. No, I cut him off. Let her commit fully to the changes. Let her sink every penny she has into destroying my family home. The higher she builds her dreams, the harder they'll fall. The day of Victoria's mansion warming party dawned bright and clear. From my small apartment in the guest house, I could see the parade of luxury cars arriving, bringing Boston's elite to admire what my stepmother had created from the ruins of my family home. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Everything's ready. Judge Thompson just signed the papers. Perfect timing, I replied, adjusting my dress in the mirror. Victoria had insisted I attend, probably wanting to showcase her generosity in letting me stay on the property. What she didn't know was that every guest at her party would soon be witness to her downfall. I walked into what used to be our family living room, now transformed into a massive open-concept space with modern art and minimalist furniture. Nothing remained of the warm, comfortable room where I'd grown up, exactly as Victoria had planned. Emily, darling, she called out, air kissing my cheek. So glad you could join us. Everyone, this is my stepdaughter. She lives in the guest house. The way she said it made it sound like an act of charity rather than my rightful home. Her 3 children stood nearby, smirking. James, Sophia, and Michael, all decked out in designer clothes bought with my father's money. Mother, Sophia said, tell them about the pool house plans. Victoria beamed. We're converting that awful old guest house into a pool house. Won't that be lovely, Emily? Don't worry, we'll find somewhere else for you. My phone buzzed again. Peter this time. Police are 5 minutes out. Evidence packets have been distributed to all major news outlets. Actually, I said, keeping my voice steady. I don't think that will be necessary. Victoria's smile faltered slightly. What do you mean? Before I could answer, there was a commotion at the front door. 2 police officers entered, followed by Dr. Chen and a woman in a business suit I recognized as the state's medical board investigator. Victoria Richardson, one officer called out. We need to speak with you regarding some serious allegations. The room went silent. Victoria's perfect smile cracked slightly. Emily, what is this? This, I said calmly, is justice. Dr. Chen stepped forward, holding up a thick folder. We have evidence of systematic medical abuse, Mrs. Richardson. Tampering with prescriptions, altering medication doses, deliberately keeping your husband in an impaired state while you manipulated his legal affairs. Victoria's face went pale. That's ridiculous. I was his nurse. I took care of him. Yes, I agreed. You took very good care of making sure he was too drugged to understand what he was signing. The medical board investigator began reading from her documents, listing each violation in clinical detail. With each charge, Victoria's composure crumbled further. But the will, she protested, looking around wildly. The will is legal. Everything belongs to my children. About that, Marcus said, stepping forward from the crowd. He pulled out another document, the real will my father had signed before Victoria entered our lives. This is your husband's true last will and testament, witnessed and notarized 3 months before he began altering his medication. Victoria's children started edging toward the door, but Peter and 2 more officers were already there, blocking their exit. We also have evidence of financial fraud, Peter announced. Multiple transfers from Mr. Richardson's accounts, made while he was medically incapacitated. The FBI is very interested in those transactions. The party guests begin murmuring, phones coming out to record the scene. Victoria's perfect society event was turning into her worst nightmare. Emily, she said, her voice shaking, you don't understand. Your father wanted. My father, I cut her off, wanted his estate preserved, not demolished. He wanted his family's legacy protected, not sold off to fund your children's lifestyle. As if on cue, another officer entered with more documents. Mrs. Richardson, we have a warrant to seize all financial records and freeze all associated accounts pending investigation. Victoria's children exploded in protest. But my tuition, Sophia wailed. My new car, James added. The renovations, Michael said, looking around at the half-finished construction. I'll pay for with stolen money, I explained. Money you'll have to pay back. Victoria lunged for me, her carefully manicured hands curled into claws. But the officers caught her before she could reach me. As they led her away in handcuffs, her mascara running down her face, she screamed, you planned this. All of it. Yes, I said quietly. Just like you planned to steal everything from me. The next few hours were chaos. The party guests fled, taking their social media videos with them. Victoria and her children were taken to the police station for questioning. The contractors, learning that their payments might be fraudulent, began securing their equipment to leave. Marcus found me in my father's study, the only room Victoria hadn't managed to renovate yet. The medical board is revoking her nursing license, he reported, and the DA is talking about criminal charges. I nodded, running my hand over my father's old desk. And the estate reverts to you, as per the original will. The judge was very clear. Any changes made while your father was being improperly medicated are invalid. I looked around the room, thinking of all the Sunday afternoons I'd spent here with my father, learning about business, about integrity, about doing what's right even when it's hard. We found something else, Marcus added, pulling out a letter. Your father wrote this before Victoria started changing his medications. I think you should read it. The letter was in my father's familiar handwriting, still strong and clear. My dearest Emily, if you're reading this, then my suspicions about Victoria were correct. I'm sorry for any pain this has caused you, but I needed to protect our family's legacy. The changes in my medication, the way she isolates me. I know something isn't right. I've left everything set up for you to expose the truth when the time is right. Marcus has all the documentation you'll need. The security cameras I had installed will show everything. Remember what I taught you. Sometimes you have to let people think they've won before they can truly lose. I love you and I'm proud of you. Dad. I wiped away tears as I finished reading. Even at the end, even through the fog of medication and manipulation, my father had been protecting me. The next few weeks were a blur of legal proceedings and media coverage. Victoria's perfect image crumbled as the evidence of her deception came to light. Her children, faced with having to repay their ill-gotten gains, turned on her, each trying to save themselves. The contractors returned, but this time to restore rather than demolish. Under my direction, they carefully undid Victoria's modernization, bringing back the warmth and character of my family home. One evening, about a month after everything had settled, I sat in my father's study, looking through old family photos. Pictures of happier times, before cancer took my mother, before Victoria entered our lives. Marcus knocked on the door, carrying a familiar bottle of wine. Found this in the cellar, he said. Your father's favorite vintage. Thought maybe it was time for a proper celebration. I smiled, thinking of all the times my father and I had shared this wine, planning for the future, unaware of how our lives would change. To your father, Marcus proposed, raising his glass. No, I corrected him. To justice, and to family legacies that can't be bought or stolen.